Welcome to Systems Check with Nina Rana. Hello, you're listening to Systems Check, the show about the human operating system behind high performance. I'm Nina, a licensed clinical social worker and former tech startup insider. Every episode, we audit the systems, professional, relational, and neurological that quietly run your life. This isn't therapy, it's a strategic look at what sustainable ambition actually requires. Our guest today is Sarah LaFontaine, a mental health professional and private practice owner who specializes in helping high-achieving individuals navigate complex trauma and health anxiety. Sarah, thank you for being a guest on our inaugural episode of Systems Check.
Thank you so much.
Hi.
I'm excited to be here.
I'm excited to have you. So what drew you to working specifically with burnout and high achievers?
To be perfectly honest, it was because I experienced it. A lot of people will think that in the mental health sphere, that because we're therapists working with other therapists, we know what to do and what to say. And unfortunately, that's not the case. So I experienced a lot of burnout in my career, and I just started to become really passionate about helping people overcome it. So I call it a friction problem, basically. So I am a total anti-frictionist. I'm all about removing the conflict and all of the things in your life that makes things harder than they need to be.
Yes, I love that, anti-frictionist. That's like a good philosophy to have too, as therapists and people in the world. So in tech, performance is rewarded, long hours, there's always fast turnarounds, there's this need to be constantly available. How can someone tell their difference between healthy ambition and trauma-driven overperformance?
So at the end of the day, it has to do with your energy. If you are finding that you're able to have good balance in the rest of your life, that you feel motivated by this, it's energizing, it's something you're excited about, then this is very likely some healthy ambition. However, if you find yourself going and going and going, not being able to ever really achieve what you want to, the goalposts constantly get changed, and you find yourself starting to feel anxious about, can I meet these goals? Can I do what these people want me to do? Then we probably have some trauma-driven overperformance. We've got some overextension of our energy, right? We're exceeding our capacity, and that's never a good thing.
How often do you see clients deplete their battery, their energy?
Oh, I mean, this is my whole caseload. So I honestly, it's all of my clients. And what I end up seeing, I use a battery analogy with them where I'm like, look, energy is a renewable resource. You can absolutely get more. But if you are consistently exceeding what you have available to you, we're going to have problems no matter what. So I do see this a lot in individuals in corporate environments, banking industry, finances, sales environments, things like that. They're all very high pressure, high demand jobs. So it's very easy. The medical field is also big on this stuff. You see so much of it. So it's all over.
It's all over. We also see that the role of fear of being exposed or replaced also plays into this. How often do you see that with your clients?
I see it a little bit less, but it's still prevalent. Because sometimes this is what is a big driver in these things. It is the fact that if I don't do well, then I'm going to lose my job. And unfortunately, in today's society, we have this situation where your job is tied to so much of your stability in all of the other parts of your life, right? If you don't have a job, then you can't make money, you can't pay rent or your mortgage, you can't, if you don't have a job, you don't have health insurance. And then you have to go onto the marketplace and find health insurance, which typically still has an out of pocket cost, which you may not be able to cover. You can't pay your car payment, and then you don't have a car. Clothes get ripped or torn, and you struggle to replace them, right? So, like, it is unfortunately jobs as this keystone to all of these other things that we need in our lives in order to feel emotionally safe.
Right. Yeah. And I see that with a lot of my clients as well, actually, that this
Mm-hmm.
fear of, well, I need this job because, it comes with all of these other things, even if
Yeah,
they're not feeling the best in that job or they're feeling burnt out.
right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Um,
It's so difficult too because ideally in like a mentally healthy world, our job wouldn't have all of this pressure on it, right?
yes.
Because we'd be able to have all of these other needs met in different ways. And on top of that, there's so many factors within our jobs that we don't have direct control over. The organization might go through restructuring because of more macroeconomic issues. We don't have control over that. We may have a supervisor that we just don't quite get along with. And so then we have personality conflict issues. That's going to influence how they see us and how they rate us on our performance, and that could lead to issues as well. There's so many different things. I really think it's an issue.
When a client comes to you and they have depleted their energy, where do you
Hmm.
normally start with them?
I
Like,
start with a little day-to-day stuff, right? So what I do is typically like a friction assessment. I
hmm
see where all of the places in their life where things are harder than they need to be.
hmm
And we start with low-hanging fruit, especially with burnout. We're already feeling defeated and frustrated. Little things feel like big things. It's hard to do stuff. So I start with something that is as small and easy as possible just to get the ball rolling, and because they're still going to feel some improvement from this, right? It's still going to be beneficial to get just that little bit off of their plate. So we start with something like that. It could be something as easy as, where can we get a little bit more flow going in your daily routine? Or is there something that's enjoyable you could do on the drive home? What's a way that we can ease this transition if you work from home? So like, okay, you have your afternoon Dunkin' in New England, and Dunkin' is a thing that people love. So, right, I say, okay, well, guess what? Your commute after work is no longer just walk out of your office and go into the living room. It's get in your car, drive 5 minutes, get yourself a Dunkin' or something else, and then drive home, so that you have a way to break up this feeling, right? So it's a bit of mindset shift. It's a bit of practicality kind of change, but it's always something that's low hanging fruit.
I like what you said, like small, starting at a small, place,
Hmm.
because even that small shift um, is a start, and then from there you can
Yeah.
really add more to it, um, little by little. Because I think sometimes large shifts, it's also habitual to, it's like habit change too.
Hmm.
And so,
Yeah.
to make that change stick, you want to start small, and then make that a part of your routine as well.
100%. I call it the New Year's resolution effect.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
right? Because
Yes.
everyone's had that New Year's resolution where they want to do this really big, fantastic thing. And they're like, yeah, January 1st, I'm going to go and do it. And then by the 15th, they've stopped because they were so ambitious. They tried to do this really big thing, and none of the other systems in their life were set up to support this. So when we want really big life change to happen, we need to start with the small stuff so that we can create an environment that is supportive of everything that we're doing, right? The people that I have seen be most successful with their New Year's resolutions have started small, and they go step by step by step. And then by the end of the year, they're doing the big thing, but they're doing it consistently. It takes more time and investment, but it's worth it because it's sustainable. And that's the key.
Right. That is the key. And I think often, like you said, like when we're making those big goals, it can be overwhelming.
Yeah.
And then what happens is that if you're not able to complete it, you get disheartened. And then you
Mhm.
feel like, okay, then if I can't do this, then how am I going to make those changes?
Exactly. And one of the things that happens, especially when you have people who are high achievers, is that they focus a lot on their personal development and what are the skills and internal traits and factors that helped them get where they are, right? And it's fantastic. They do have a lot of strengths. These are incredible things. And when we focus on those internal things too much, we forget the fact that we are not living in a bubble, right? We live in a world with other things around us, and sometimes there are external factors too. So when we see, oh, the New Year's resolution didn't work, or I wasn't able to achieve this goal, we are naturally going to have a tendency to go, there was something wrong with me. I didn't do something to make this be successful. This is my responsibility to own. And that is not the case. Now, granted, am I saying that it's never your fault and it's always external stuff? No, I'm not saying that either. I'm saying there's a mix, right? Sometimes it's 50-50, sometimes it's 70-30, sometimes it's 90-10 in any direction, but it is a mix. And we are not doing ourselves justice by taking that out and trying to hold responsibility for everything when that's not the situation. It's not realistic. We need to
Right.
look at the environment too.
Right. Oh, exactly. And I think that's often it's like like, well, what do I need to do to fix myself is like
Mhm.
the first thing that often people think of, and not looking at the systems that they're in and the changes that need to be made there.
Right.
Okay.
100%.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's that kind of a shift too. It's getting what can I do as a therapist to help my clients get out of their own head and look at what else is going on around them. So we look at all different factors. We look at, is this, what's causing this friction? Is it communication? Is it environment? Is it our connection with other people? Is it our energy? Is it, any of these things? And we go through a list and we figure it out together.
That's great. So we also see a lot of health anxiety in tech.
Hmm.
So,
Yep.
Googling symptoms between deployments, hyper focusing on bodily sensations during high stress. I'm guilty of this when I was in the tech world as well. Um, how does nervous system dysregulation fuel that cycle?
So, what ends up happening is our nervous system gets trained on the wrong data. And a really great example is AI nowadays,
Mm-hmm.
where if you have this system and it gets the wrong data in it, you're going to get bad output. And if all
Correct.
you do is take that bad output and put it right back into the system and act as if it's true, the system will learn that the bad data is the true data, and then it will just keep giving you bad output. And it just creates this cycle. And that's what happens with our nervous system. Our nervous system at a certain point gets taught that, hey, we are in this situation that is leading to these stressors coming up, right? And so we're experiencing dysregulation, we're experiencing higher levels of stress, we are experiencing a whole lot of nervousness and anxiety. All of this impacts our GI system as well. So that's the butterflies in your stomach, where it's the, oh my gosh, I have to go to the bathroom before I get on stage to talk or do a presentation, right? Like our system just goes, we got to deal with this. It's all of these things. And if our system is identifying, if our nervous system, if our subconscious is identifying the wrong criteria in our environment as the things to look for when we are in a high stress environment, then it's going to start to react proactively, right? One of the main things that our brain does is keep us safe. It is like number one goal, no matter what, keep the flesh suit alive. Because if the flesh suit is not alive, the brain cannot survive.
Right.
How it goes.
Yes.
Right. So it is prioritized to safety and survival. So unfortunately, it's going to look at things like it's raining today, and the past 2 times it rained and I had to give a presentation. I completely flubbed it, and I got chewed out by my boss afterwards for looking like an idiot in front of our clients, right? So now when you have a presentation and it's a rainy day, you're going to feel more nervous because your brain has now identified rain as one of those things that, oh, this is what's controlling, this is what's having any kind of impact on what I'm doing. And that's just not simply the case, right? So we start to get a lot of false positives, basically. And then it's our job as therapists and everyone else to then come in and help you realize and retrain your brain, retrain your nervous system to see that, no, this is a coincidence. The things that actually are good indicators of this are: how much did you prepare? How confident are you feeling? How anxious are you feeling? All of those other things that can still be impacted by the environment, but it's not something like the rain or what you had for breakfast.
Yeah. Does chronic screen exposure and like sedentary work amplify body hyper-awareness?
Sometimes it does, simply because when you're not moving, you're not getting a lot of input. So your body is not noticing, it doesn't have as much to notice. So then it fixates on what is there simply because it has nothing really to look at, right? It's like a goldfish in a bowl, and all it has is one little plant. So it's not really excited by that plant. It's going to hyper focus on every little bit of that plant, unfortunately. And that's what happens. It's also a physical thing too, right? Too much screen exposure can lead to poor posture because you find yourself hunching over towards the computer, and also straining your eyes. And so you are going to notice more physical issues with that, which is why all the different doctors and whatnot recommend you need to get up every hour or so and at least take a walk, look at something different. I'm a eyeglass wearer, and my ophthalmologist is always saying, like, every 20 minutes or so you need to like look off the screen, look at the wall, even look just past the camera, because your eyes need that break. They need that change of pace and to essentially rest, right? On a screen you're also getting a lot of visual input, and so it's changing a whole lot of things in how we operate. This is not what our bodies were designed to do. So it's a change, and we have now evolved to optimize for it at this point.
Yeah, no, I wear glasses as well, and I think I'm very much guilty of not looking away from the screen for many hours, and then getting dry eyes. When I used to work in an office, I would go outside for 15 minutes, 20 minutes during lunch break, make sure like my eyes are away from my screen. But that was mostly because my colleagues were doing it too. So it was almost like a group thing where you're encouraged to do that. And then when you're, at home working virtually, you have, it's on you to make sure you do that. And not, yeah. And so
that can make it harder too, right? If you have the work expectations, I guess, have changed too, where because you're working from home and you don't have all the distractions of a work environment,
Hmm.
sometimes the productivity expectation is even higher. Whereas we were not meant to be productive all 8 hours of our workday. I don't know anyone who is, even in an office environment. Um, and yet, because we're home, the expectations now changed. So it's one of those things where I think the workday needs to be recognized as a thing where we have periods of higher productivity and lower productivity. And it's okay, it's natural. We don't want to burn out our brain by trying to go at 100% minute after minute after minute. Um, and part of that is that our rest means we need to have time. It needs to be okay for us to go and take a 15-minute walk, even
Yeah.
just outside of the house, up the
Yes.
driveway, wherever it is, down the street, walk the dog. But we need that time, regardless of whether or not we're in an office and everyone else is doing it.
Yeah. Well, that's what the concept of crip time is. I don't know if you've ever heard of this, where
I
it's like
haven't.
moving away from rigid productive schedules toward a more
Mhm.
like flexible approach. And it's for the concepts for people with disabilities, but frankly speaking, it's for I think it should apply to a lot of people, where
Mhm.
you're honoring your body and your nervous system and what its needs are versus the needs of the system.
Yes, 100%. I mean, if you think of it as what is going to survive without the other, humans are going to survive without work systems. Work systems will not survive without humans. So, if anything is going to be optimized to favor one over the other, it should be that the work systems are optimized to favor the human instead
Correct.
of changing the human to favor the work system. So, I honestly love that. I'm going to look into it some more because it's
It's
right on the money.
it's I've been a disabled person all my life, and it's probably I think last year I read about it, and I was like, wow, I wish the first thought I had, I think, was I wish this concept could be real, and then my next thought was, well, wait, why can't it?
Right? Honestly, that's how amazing things come up, is that you see something, you have an idea, and you're like, you know what? Oh, I can do something about this. I can put this into place. I can advocate for it and teach people about it.
Yeah,
Um,
and then
yeah.
or creating systems yourself that that adjust to your schedule and your life and
Mhm.
how your nervous system regulates. I mean, that's what part of me doing this podcast is
Yeah.
that is trying to figure out. I can't see clients, you know, one after
Mhm.
the other. It's not going to be. I can't sit up like that all day. It's not healthy for me. What can I
Yep.
do to enjoy doing the work that I do and make it a sustainable journey for myself?
100%. I mean, it is something that unless you've had the experience, you don't quite know that this is something that you need to do, or you don't recognize that this is an option, right?
Hmm.
Almost like until you're forced to live outside the norm, so to speak, that's when you realize just how much you can break it and how much it is okay to prioritize yourself. I have multiple chronic illnesses myself, and that was one of the reasons why I went into private practice, because I knew that the productivity expectations for working in an agency were absolutely going to do damage to me,
Hmm.
both physically and emotionally, because I would burn out. And my chronic illnesses are very much managed by being able to keep a low stress life. And
Hmm.
obviously, when you're burned out, you don't have a low stress life.
No.
kind of the definition of burnout.
Yep.
Um, so it just creates this cycle where
Right.
then I'm asking my body to heal from something while still being in an environment where it's being hurt. And that's just absolutely not sustainable. So it's also why I'm starting to go into public speaking, and working with organizations and stuff, because this is something that I'm absolutely passionate about and love to do. And at the same time, I want something that is more than just my private practice. So that if I do get to a point where I can't do that 1 hour exchange, billable hour stuff for clients, I have something else, because this is the way that the world works, right? It still comes back to that job as a keystone for everything else. It's just that when you break the mold, you find other ways to create that job, but everything is still dependent on it, unfortunately.
No, you're exactly right. And I think that's the reason why therapists have needed to be more creative and innovative.
Hmm.
And then because we still want to do this work and still help people, but there are so many different ways of doing that now, and
Yeah.
exploring that and making our lives sustainable to still
Hmm.
continue to help the people that we want to help.
Absolutely. I mean, and you get to look at it from so many different perspectives. So, um, it's funny that I'm like, I need a low stress life, but I take on a lot of different things. I think the difference is that I'm really excited to do them, and that's where the lack of stress comes.
Right.
But even for the professional speaking stuff, right? I'm wanting to give back to the mental health community and being able to do this. I'm developing a mental health directory that helps to really match people based on what they need and who they connect with, to get some of the friction out of that kind of matching process, because
A
at the
lot of
very
friction
least,
there.
if there's so much friction there.
Yes.
I know
I,
I'm preaching to the choir here.
as a therapist who wanted to find the right therapist for myself, it was
Hmm.
quite a journey.
Yeah.
And you know, because not every therapist does everything, and you also
Yes.
want a specific thing. You want. I always tell clients, if you don't feel comfortable in that with that therapist, don't.
Hmm.
You're not. No one's forced to be there. You want to be in a
Right.
safe, comfortable place, because that is a
Hmm.
relationship too. Creating that therapeutic
100%.
connection might not happen with your first therapist. So don't feel
Yeah.
disheartened at all. And I actually
Yep.
tell clients that, like, if you ever feel like this isn't working, I will gladly help you find someone that you'll feel comfortable working with. Because
Yeah.
I've had actually several clients, but I don't want to disappoint you. I'm like, it's not about me. It's about you.
Right. Oh, 100%. I tell my clients the exact same thing in our work together and in consults. I'm like, look, my goal is to get you connected with the person that is the best therapist for you. And if it's me, great. And if it's not me, then do I know someone that would be a better fit for you? Or is there some kind of information that I can give you, insight from the therapist side of things, to help you on this journey of figuring out what you want? Because there's only so far that directories and personal connections can get you, unfortunately, because we've got hundreds and thousands and tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands of amazing therapists in our state, across the country, all doing such fantastic work, that there is someone out there for you. I truly believe that. If only because it gives me hope. But you know, there's someone out there for you. It's just simply a matter of finding that person. And I don't think it should be this, I know a guy who knows a guy who overheard someone talking in a coffee shop, and I got their name for you, kind of a thing to find a good therapist. That's just insane to me. There's too much friction. It doesn't work.
Just finding a therapist is too much friction. But what we're telling the audience today is it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to
Exactly.
be. And, there are, wonderful people like Sarah who are trying to create directories and things that it's not so much of a long journey where you feel like, oh, there isn't a therapist out there for me. There is, it
Yeah,
might just take some time to get there. So for
100%.
those that are listening today, please don't be disheartened about that, because that is
Exactly.
often we do meet clients who've had that journey. So
Yeah.
so you spoke about nervous system. So what does good nervous system look like practically for like managers or executives?
So, what it ends up looking like is being attuned to your own feelings and also aware of the feelings around people. So, this is a lot of emotional awareness. When
Mm-hmm.
you are connected with yourself to the level where you can tell emotionally and physically, because our subconscious will use physical signs to be able to tell us things, right? This is the twist in your gut, the tension in your shoulders, the slight pressure on your chest kind of stuff, then we know that language of ourselves. And then we can use that information to be able to regulate ourselves intentionally. And a well regulated manager or executive is one who is then able to be present with the rest of their team and lead
Mm-hmm.
them from a place of confidence, of quiet strength, and as someone who's able to be present during stressful situations and remain regulated. There is a really fantastic thing that our brain and bodies do called neuroception. And it is when we essentially, mirror neurons are also part of this. So, neuroception is what our body does to be able to look at the environment around us and tell us whether or not this is physically safe, emotionally safe, or if there's a threat around, right? It's part of our threat assessment system.
Mm-hmm.
So, the reason why this is done kind of subconsciously is because there is so much information. We would go bonkers if we were to actually consciously be aware of all of the processing that our brain is doing. So it happens subconsciously, but we get these signs and signals. And what our mirror neurons do is they look to other people around us and see, oh, so not only is this a safe place, for example, like if the neuroception has told us that this is a safe place to be, and then what our mirror neurons will do is they will pick up on the signs from the other person and they will help us to co regulate. So they will help us to see, oh, you're calm and relaxed. It's okay for me to be calm and relaxed because I also trust that because we have this connection of trust and safety too, which is also important for managers and executives to be able to have and maintain, then, oh, you're going to be with me on this. And we've got this together. You and me, we're going to work collaboratively, and I can relax now. Right. So we want all of that stuff to be very present and on point because when we have managers and executives, we have our supervisors who are not well regulated
Mm-hmm.
or we have not built safety and trust with them, then this is not a manager that I feel like I can go to with problems. And this is not a meeting where I can feel vulnerable and have difficult conversations about a project timeline or my performance or maybe we're talking about the state of the company and forecasting stuff, what have you. But I'm not going to feel comfortable having any of those conversations, which means I'm also not going to feel comfortable telling you what's going wrong and where we could have improvement. So it's one of those things where like, do you feel even comfortable telling the truth on your annual employee engagement survey?
Yes.
Because, right? That's a
Yes.
big popular one. Because if you feel like, hey, I can fill this out, but also nothing is going to happen, then you've probably got some safety issues and trust issues going on in the
Yes.
workplace. Someone somewhere has not shown that this is a trustworthy space for you. Because otherwise you would be excited to fill it out and feel like, yeah, I can tell you that we've got this, and this going on, and I know it's going to be taken care of because this is part of my needs, and you're going to take care of me. So if we don't have that, we're in trouble.
Yeah. Those types of assessments
Hmm.
I've seen implemented, and then the results being like, oh, but everyone's seems to be doing, they're okay, they're fine, they're saying that
Hmm.
we're doing a great job, but that's not what the actual employees are feeling.
Exactly.
So when you have worked with a manager or an executive on sort of good nervous system leadership, how has that resulted? Like, what are some conversations that you've had that maybe there were some pushback a little bit initially?
Oh, when when you work with someone who knows how to create a an emotionally safe work environment, you're able to have those tough conversations
Mm-hmm.
because they don't feel tough. They feel like we're exploring a topic. And gosh, it's different. I'm struggling to even think of exactly how to describe this feeling, right? But it is just this kind of um, this connection, this deeper connection with the supervisor, with the manager or executive, and being able to know that you can sit down with them and you can have these conversations, and you trust that they're going to look out for you just as much as they might look out for the company. And so you feel more comfortable being vulnerable with them or bringing your concerns to their attention. You are more open to their feedback because language is absolutely a component in this. When you have someone who is very dedicated to making their environment be a safe one, then they're going to use specific language to communicate that. And so it's not going to be a harsh tone, fast rate of speech, and a lot of you kind of language. It's going to be more collaborative. It's going to be warmer. Their
Right.
body posture is going to be more open. And they're going to say, I am concerned about this. I see XYZ. What can we do together? What are some thoughts that you have? And so it's going to be more team focused and allied because they recognize that they're in here with you doing this stuff. They are your partner on this journey.
And yeah, and that's how it needs to be.
Hmm.
Hmm. Um, so we were talking about working remotely and being at home, and many tech professionals do work remotely, often feeling isolated, even
Hmm.
while constantly connected. What is the
Yep.
psychological cost of that kind of disconnection?
Oh, goodness. Where to start?
That's a broad question, I know.
It is a broad question,
I
but
mean,
it's a good
yeah,
question.
I mean in sort of your approach, because you are working with clients who are dealing with complex, trauma.
Yep. When we feel disconnected, it's very easy, or it's easier, I should say, to get into this mentality that people don't care about us,
Mm-hmm.
right? And when we have that kind of emotional disconnection, it's a lot easier to isolate ourselves socially from other people. And once we have this belief start to ingrain in ourselves, then what ends up happening is that our brains are kind of pre-cued with beliefs that we have. And right, so this is how it's like the lens through which we see the world,
Right.
right? So if we have love that we both wear glasses because I know you'll get this, right? If you have the wrong prescription, then it's going to distort your view of the world in a way that can be harmful for yourself, even if your intentions are good, right? So if I'm putting on a bad prescription, then my depth perception is going to be off. Everything around me is going to be fuzzy, and I'm going to trip downstairs, not because I intended to trip downstairs, but because my views, my lenses distorted the world enough where I'm not able to make great decisions. So if that distortion is that people don't care about me, that there's no one around me, that I have no friends, that what is there really going on, then that's going to lead to us also unintentionally cutting ourselves off from opportunity simply because our lenses are telling us that there's no options. And then we miss the ones that are actually there. And that's a problem.
Yeah. Does that disconnection increase a burnout or trauma symptoms?
Absolutely. Some of the things that will really help with being like proactive factors, we call them protective factors for trauma and for burnout, is your mentality. There was a study done probably about 15 years ago or so now that on individuals in the military who deployed overseas and to combat zones, to be clear. And what the research showed is that the individuals who went over and were very mentally strong in terms of their beliefs, specifically the belief that they would be okay after this deployment was over, regardless of what they saw, regardless of what they experienced, that they were going to be okay, that they would come back and they would get help, they would talk to people, they would have support. And in comparison, the people who had doubts about their ability to manage it, if they thought that, yeah, there is a good likelihood I'm going to develop PTSD or depression, or, I'm concerned that I'm going to start drinking to cope with this when I get back, what have you. Those individuals, even after they controlled for all other factors, all other protective factors, all other vulnerabilities, that mindset was a significant factor. It was the thing that changed and determined whether or not these individuals developed mental health issues afterwards. And so the people who didn't have that perspective were significantly more likely to be okay and have better mental health after they returned, simply because they didn't have this thing in their brain. They didn't have these beliefs and thoughts already telling them this is going to not go well, right? And we can take that knowledge of how the brain works, take it out of that deployment setting and put it into something like this. And if we have that mindset of, I'm going to not do well at my job, I'm going to really struggle to make friends, it's impossible for me to connect with people, what have you, then guess what, guys? You're going to have a hard time doing it. It's going to be a significant factor in this.
That's an interesting study. And you said that was,
right?
Yeah, it is. And that came out, you said 15 years ago. Still applies.
Probably about, yeah, it's been a hot minute.
Yeah.
But one of the things is that, so my husband's a reservist and used to be active duty. So when I was in grad school, I was doing a lot of research into things like moral injury and all of that stuff. And he deployed while I was in grad school. He deployed twice. So this was something that I had a lot of stakes in personally,
Of course.
to be able to make sure that he was okay. And it was before his first deployment that I had found that research article and checked a couple others to make sure that it was good stuff. And I just looked at him and I was like, this is what you're going to do. You are. You're going to have some positive thoughts and try and stay focused on the good stuff. And, all of those things to just improve. And honestly, that's what we need to do for ourselves, regardless of whether you're being deployed or you have a really terrible boss. We need to have that same kind of mentality of, yeah, I can get through this. This is, you know what? This is not going to break me. I will be okay.
Many organizations focus on that burnout prevention
Mhm.
part, but really, in your view, what does it actually take to build fulfillment and presence and not just reduce exhaustion?
So I think one of the things that I see most often with burnout prevention programs in the workplace is that they are not comprehensive enough.
Mm.
They focus on the action and not necessarily the mindset. Or they don't recognize that there's a deeper problem. Because if you are talking about, oh, well, for burnout, we need to create more community. Okay, so let's have it be after dinner drinks with the team, something like that, right? Maybe it's on Zoom, maybe it's in person, who knows? But you see that be unsuccessful, it's probably because there's a deeper problem going on. And that issue is usually more connected to emotional safety in the workplace, things like that. Because if you don't trust or feel comfortable around your coworkers, in a more formal setting, then you're also not going to feel comfortable with them in a much more casual setting where it's more personal and vulnerable. Or you're going to say, you know what, I'm tapped from talking to you guys
Mhm.
all day. I've got enough pings on Teams. My Slack is turned off. Thank you very much. I don't want to talk to you guys any more than I already have to. That's what you're going to see, right? So burnout really needs to be more comprehensive. It needs to look at not just the environment or what you have people do. It needs to look at the true communication and connection that people have. It needs to look at how much energy they're expending at work, and are things structured to be sustainable for people. I've seen it in so many different work environments where, even though you are technically fully staffed, simply because, and let's be clear, right? Anyone who works in HR knows this, fully staffed just means that you don't have open positions, not that you need more people to do the work that you're asking them to do,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's the
Preach.
definition of it.
Yes. Yes.
So if we are actually going to be properly staffed, then that means that I would say quite a few work environments in the US are actually understaffed, even though they say that they're fully staffed. And we see that because we see burnout and we see energy depletion. So
Yeah.
it's a
And
whole system.
I mean, it's in every workplace,
Hmm.
but I see it a lot in IT and tech,
Yeah.
where there are, people doing multiple responsibilities
Hmm.
and feel drained and then don't know how to have those conversations with leadership about how they're feeling because they're
Oh,
not
absolutely.
open to that conversation.
Right. Well, because it's the bottom line,
Mm-hmm.
right? We don't have the budget. Look at, we've already hired for these number of people. And you can kind of tell sometimes if you leave a position and you find out what they had to do afterwards. And I had this happen myself when I was working in a psychiatric hospital. And I left and I found out from a colleague who was still working there. And they're like, they had to hire 3 people to replace you. And I
Wow.
was like, see, I took it as a badge of honor. Like, yeah, see, I was doing a lot. And now it's just like, ooh, no, that's gross.
Mm-hmm.
That's it should not have taken 3 people to replace me, because I shouldn't have been doing the work of 3 people to begin with. I
Yeah,
should have been doing
exactly.
the work of one, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, this is not a badge of honor. We need to just appropriately staff. It's right. So, like, what you end up seeing, I think, through a lot of our conversation is that there's all of these different things that will come together in order
Right.
to impact burnout in a company and in an environment, both for the individual and for the place itself, right?
Yeah.
And so this is not a do this one thing. It needs to be, here are all of the things that we need to do consistently in order to enact this greater change, and really make this, we want to eradicate burnout system wide as opposed to just in
Yes.
the individual.
Yes. And have you just worked more one on one with clients, or have you worked with organizations to really come up with a comprehensive burnout prevention program? And not, because you're
Mhm.
right, I often see this one layer being addressed and not
Yeah,
really looking at it in a comprehensive manner and addressing those things that we just spoke about.
absolutely. I've worked with some organizations to do this. And a lot of it depends on how much buy-in I get from all the
There you
different
go.
individuals, right? Because this means making big changes. It means doing things very different
Mm-hmm.
than how they've been done before. One really great example on a national level, I haven't had the opportunity to work with this organization, but like there, it would be my dream to. But they do it so well, they wouldn't need my help anyway. But it is the Savannah Bananas and what Jesse Cole is building there, with Banana Ball. It is, look up their stuff online. They're fantastic. But one of the things that they prioritize is fans first. And so they look at everything through this lens of what do we need in order to have the fans be first in everything that we do. But they do it sustainably. They do it by paying their players well. They do it by recognizing that all of their support staff would are just as important as the players, because you can't get to any of these places if you don't have a really good equipment manager. And so the equipment manager matters just as much as the pitcher who's doing these super cool dances on the mound, right? Um, and all of these things that just it's all in the little details. And so what the difficult thing going into an organization and working with them is finding the individuals who are against this. And maybe not because they don't want the organization to be successful, but sometimes it's because this is so different. We're talking
Right?
about radically changing the way that we work, and that can be scary. And it can also be kind of frustrating because, from a trauma perspective, we have all kind of been hazed in our work environments,
Right.
right? To see that this is okay and this is normal and this is acceptable. And it can be really difficult when you then have another group of people come in and say, no, this is not okay. I don't want to work like this, and push back. Because sometimes what you see is that people value the experience because they feel like it's that experience, the trauma, or the struggle that has gotten them where they are and made them a better employee or honed their decision making skills. And that's just not healthy, right? It's not the
Yeah.
way that we want it to go.
Yeah.
So we got to do some of that deeper work with the individual sometimes too. And that can be hard, but we do it and we see success.
Yeah. And you're right. These, going back to the systems, you know,
Hmm.
the systems are what need to be changed, and making sure that we get some buy-in there so that they understand that at the end of the day, you might lose employees just
Yeah,
from burnout, you know?
absolutely. I mean, and it's honestly, a lot of this is in the company's best interest to do, because you can, like, the cost of onboarding is easily 1.5 to 2 times an employee's annual salary.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So if you are looking to replace someone who's making $100,000 a year, you're going to spend 150 to $200,000 to replace that person, versus adjust your systems,
Mm-hmm.
change what's going on. That's just one employee too. Change the systems, adjust what's going on, and then you have higher retention. You have people who are actively excited to come to work every day, or at least not unhappy about
Yeah.
going to work every day,
Yes.
right? Because what we also see with burnout is that this has a cascading effect because the work still needs to get done, and now you have fewer people to do the work. So the workload that was unsustainable for one person is now going to be redistributed across multiple people who probably already had unsustainable workloads to begin with. And so then you see another person who's just like, nope, I'm done. And they hit their breaking point sooner and faster. And then another person and another person and another person. And so you have this higher turnover where one person leaving could be the inciting reason for 3 or 4 other people to leave too. And now you're not just looking at 150 to $200,000 to replace one person. You're looking at, I don't know, $1 million
Yes.
to replace, the 4 or 5 total people that have left in that department. Not to mention all the productivity that's lost, right? So it's not just their salary that now you have to put all this money into headhunting and everything else, but how much is the company unable to make because you don't have those people in those key positions? So the cost of it is actually significantly higher for companies.
Yes. And to leadership that is listening, I mean, this is very important.
Hmm.
Being resistant to these types of changes, is a detriment to your company and the goals that you have and those implementation phases that you have in place that are now on pause, where
Hmm.
now morale might even go down because now the remaining employees have to take up the slack and probably also know the value of those employees that left and are disheartened because now they're like, what's my value? Um, so,
Yeah.
it's a lot. And so having, experts like Sarah, listen to them, listen to us, because we're coming from a place of, clinical expertise. Sure, I'm from, coming from the tech world, so I know
Hmm.
that if some of these things are implemented, you lose employees. In fact, that if you're respecting the value of what they're all the work that they're putting in, they'll work harder.
Yeah.
If you're respecting, oh, okay, you need, maybe instead of giving to, I've seen certain companies implement like unlimited PTOs,
Hmm.
but I've also seen
Yeah.
employees not utilize them or utilize them
Yeah.
or utilize them when they need them, just knowing that,
Hmm.
oh, okay, you're respecting my work and I have these unlimited PTOs that I can utilize whenever, then,
Yeah.
that's there for them too. So, there's certain things that you can start with small changes and then work
Hmm.
up don't stop there is what we're saying.
Oh,
There is a
absolutely.
comprehensive approach to it. No, we're not saying that you need to push the entire comprehensive approach all at once.
Hmm.
You can start small, add to it, ask the input of your employees, see what their needs
Hmm.
are, bring in
100%.
bring in experts like Sarah who've been doing this for years and understand the work. Um, because what we also want your company and your employees to enjoy the work and it be
Hmm.
successful, you know. Um,
Oh, 100%.
and I
As my
think,
headphones keep falling. um,
but I mean that's what we're trying to say here is that
yeah.
it's not it's not the individual. Often it's the systems, and these
Yeah.
systems need to change. Not for your companies to be sustainable, for your employees to be, emotionally and not be burnt out. These
Hmm.
are the things that need to be changed. And again,
Completely.
you don't have to throw the whole book at the wall. I don't know if that's the phrase. You can start with one chapter.
Yeah. I mean, and if anything, we wouldn't recommend that you change everything all at once, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because this is the New Year's resolution effect for a company.
Right.
If you don't have systems in place to make sure that all of these changes are sustainable, then all you're going to do is create chaos. We want to
Right.
be very intentional and focused so that these can be changes that are put into place, work, be accepted by everyone, and continue to get you in the direction that you want to go, so that over time, hopefully not a ton of time, right? We're not talking 5 years here, but
Mm-hmm.
over time, you are able to create this environment where you have very low burnout, you have very high satisfaction, and you essentially don't even need to advertise for open positions because your employees are so excited. They're talking about your company everywhere anyway with other people in their fields, and they're doing your recruiting for you.
There you
So
go. Yeah.
it's just what it is.
Yes. Yes. It's sustainable. Then it becomes sustainable all around.
Mhm.
Yeah. So Sarah, if a
Yeah.
listener is realizing their drive might be trauma informed, what's one starting point for shifting toward balance?
So I would say one of the things that can help you bring balance is to take breaks periodically. Um, if you're noticing that this is kind of a trauma thing, then whenever you can take a moment out of what's going on to take a minute for yourself is going to be important. So some of the things that I encourage my clients to do, take a bathroom break even if you don't need it. Because if you're walking to the restroom, you have a really good reason to not engage with Joe from accounting who has a question for you on your way. No one's going to bother you in there. And you're also not going to get people who are just like, are they actually going to the bathroom? Right? It's this protected space. So you go, regardless of whether you use the restroom or not, but you can go into a stall, close the door. You have a quiet little place for yourself. You can take some deep breaths. You can remind yourself that, you only have X amount of time left at work, what have you. You can also go over to the sink and you can put some cool water on the insides of your wrists, kind of on your chest or the back of your neck. Those are all really great spots for activating your vagus nerve, which is one of the parts of the body that kind of help us to signal to the rest of it that we can rest and de stress. It really helps with regulation.
Mm-hmm.
So we can do all of those things, and it takes 5 minutes, right? But what we want consistent 5 minutes so that over time we bring your average stress level down. We do it with these little pulls down, right? And that slowly ends up bringing your overall stress level down. Hopefully, that gives you enough bandwidth to be able to do some other things. Um, Pick up a hobby or find someone to talk to so that you can have a much more detailed, customized plan of what's going to help you because it's worth it. You're worth it.
You heard it, everyone. This is exactly the kind of conversation I hoped it'd be. Thank you for bringing clinical clarity that high achievers, executives, leaderships, they really needed to hear this, not just to slow down, but that the systems that they're in often need a change. It's not just them, it's often the culture, the culture, the work
Yes.
culture that we're in. Um, and so we want to thank Sarah LaFontaine. If people want to find you, where should they go?
Oh, so the easiest place to find me would be through my website, mindfulhq.com. So mindful headquarters. Otherwise, I am on social media. You can find me on LinkedIn. I am also on Facebook and Instagram at Sarah LaFontaine Mindful HQ. So Google any of those and I will pop up and we can have more conversations.
I will definitely put that in the show notes. Thank you so much, Sarah. And for those that are listening, it's not about you. It's often the systems that you are in that need to change. And together we'll continue to talk about that more. This is Systems Check, everyone, and thank you so much, Sarah.
You're so welcome. Thank you for having me.